Back to Truck Tech, everyone. I'm pretty excited this week. This is a great opportunity. We have obviously written about and talked with folks from Gatik before. We've never had the guest that we'll have today, Apeksha Kumavat, who is a co-founder and also the chief engineer at Gatik. Now, for those of you who don't know, Gatik is the company that truly is a leader in its space, or the leader in its space in terms of middle mile autonomy, already working in two states and in Ontario, Canada, with driverless trucks that are really doing regular routes and things like that. We'll let Apeksha explain a little more of that. But her background is pretty interesting. She's been around Gatik from the beginning, has background at Ford Motor Company, comes out of Purdue, lots of robotics background. She can talk about it if she'd like. Apeksha, welcome to Truck Tech.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Well, it's been a little while since we've had anyone from Gatik on, and as we said, when I was a part of your retreat a couple of years ago, I think we may have brushed past each other, but it's great to have you on the show, and it's great to have a chance to talk for a few minutes. You guys, again, have been making news, pretty strong news here recently. We had to do some last minute edits to get some of it in recently, which was your expanding relationship with Isuzu, which is your supplier for trucks at this point. Maybe we can start there if it's okay. I think that, the announcement that you will do autonomous vehicles with them, and ultimately line side installations, I take it, of your software and hardware.
Yes, I can. Thank you so much for starting from that. It's the team is very excited about this partnership on both sides. So we have been working with Isuzu for the past over 4 years, working on the kind of technology that goes into enabling these trucks, mid-mile trucks, class 6 and 7 that we are working with Isuzu, to enable them to be driver out or no one in the driving seat. So these essentially include a lot of redundancies, safety aspects, which we have worked with Isuzu over the past several years to develop this. And we are very excited on both sides to announce that we are deepening that partnership further and committing to establishing. So this will be the very first time in the industry where an OEM and an autonomy development partner essentially is committing towards establishing a dedicated facility that will be mass producing these vehicles, L4 autonomous vehicles, coming out of the production line. So this is planned for to be released in 2027. So we'll be having these vehicles coming out of the line facility, as you called it, by 2027. So really excited about this partnership there, and looking forward.
We're starting to see a little bit of this. Aurora, which is planning to do driver out trucks, about 20 of them yet this year. That's their plan. We just saw, one of their true partners, of course, Volvo just recently showed the, purpose-built chassis that ultimately you'll need to do as well for redundancy, or Isuzu, you and Isuzu will do. So we do know that they have plans around that same year that you talked about to do line side introduction or production of these autonomous systems. And that is your plan, right? This will be on the line kind of thing. It's not upfits, not refitting.
That's correct. So one of the things that I would want to highlight, which is unique about this partnership, is we have already gone through those phases of development. So one of the things that I would want to highlight is we already are our Generation 3 of the platform that we are launching this year, and we essentially are planning to go freight only. Freight only for us as no one in the driving seat or no one in the cabin, so driver out operations. With this generation of platform that has been developed already with Isuzu's collaboration, which we basically started back in 2021. So Isuzu and Gatik have been partnered towards developing this technology since back in 2021. We have gone through those iterations, creation of all the required redundancies, safety aspects that come with it. And we essentially are now launching the initial versions for the low volume builds early this year, and going into this year, end of this year and next year.
What's the really understand? Okay, help me understand. Are you still retrofitting trucks at this point, and eventually you'll actually, it'll build as they build trucks, and you haven't? I don't think you've identified where, but there will be. They have operations not very far from me in Michigan, where I am, but they are going to actually build this into the truck as you go along, rather than take them offline and add things. I presume you're upfitting now. Is that correct or incorrect?
Yeah. So yes, so there is a lot of like spectrum in terms of how this essential relationship works. There's yes, we are adding this as an aftermarket currently, but it's not. It's basically in collaboration with the Isuzu teams right now. So this is very much a joint development and integration work that we are doing. What we are this particular partnership and announcement, which we did last week, reinforces the kind of commitment as well as the confidence that Isuzu is showing or signaling in terms of their confidence in the technology that we have already gone through the proof points over the last several years. So what we are seeing is now us entering into that commitment of going into full mass production facility, which is the unique part of this particular announcement, where the OEM, in this case Isuzu, has actually committed the required funds and intentions of going into mass production with this particular technology, enabling level 4 autonomous vehicles.
Well, and I think it's significant that the parent of Isuzu America is putting $30 million into Gatik, and I presume that's what this is aimed towards. Isuzu also has, of course, they come out of Japan, so they have global operations. Do they, to your knowledge, do they have sort of global ambitions with this as well beyond the United States?
Absolutely. So very recently, Isuzu Global, so Isuzu Japan, they came out with their roadmap towards the next few years around the kind of like pillars that they are investing in. So this is what they have committed to is investment in 3 different pillars. One of them, the primary one is autonomous vehicles, in which they are investing a huge amount of close to $2.2 billion in this particular area. So they're showing in terms of like at global level, they're showing the commitment towards bringing this technology to their platforms. And in the mid-mile section or mid-mile segment, Gatik is their only partner in terms of enabling or bringing this technology on their mid-mile platforms for autonomous driving.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mentioned up front that you don't really have anybody. We're going to get to that right now. Actually, you don't have anybody chasing you right this minute. We're starting to see some interest out there clearly, and you're probably tracking this as well. Maybe not you as chief engineer, but someone in the company is. Who's out there? Who should we be looking at as competition? Most of the time, we can't identify anyone. Now, we did see recently that that there was a day cab version of a Freightliner E-Cascadia with Torque's autonomous system, Torque being their internal, autonomous developer. We haven't seen anything down in that sort of, true middle range, but they have a Class 6 truck, and obviously there are there are Mitsubishi Fuso trucks or Rizon trucks that would all be potential, but nobody is there for tomorrow that we can see right now. So you're able to continue to advance or to build your lead, if you will, to run it up. Is that an accurate description?
That's absolutely true. So one of the things that I would want to highlight here is Gatik has been in this industry. So back in 2017, when we started this company, the value proposition or the use case has stayed the same since the start. So we have been very much focused on the mid-mile segment. There is a lot of value that we see enabling this technology for the kind of customers that we work with. We work very closely with these customers, and we have a very deep understanding of the kind of service, kind of product that this particular segment requires. This has enabled us to also partner with the right kind of OEMs, the right kind of platforms, and the right kind of tier ones to make it truly a partnership-heavy business that's deriving value year over year. So having spent these many years across the board with the customers and with the OEM partners that we are working with, allows us to essentially have that edge or lead in this particular segment. Now, as you called out, there are a few other partnerships that we see in the industry between the autonomy developers as well as OEMs. What we are seeing is these are still in early stages, or in terms of figuring out in terms of the use cases, or in case of like the product market fit. There is still a lot to be done, and that's essentially like that's one of the reasons why this particular announcement highlights that we essentially are beyond that usual R&D phase that we generally see with the OEMs.
I was unable to get Joanna Butler, who runs autonomy at Daimler, to say that they will do this, but she did give me an interesting figure.
Yep.
There's 60 billion miles of sort of what you do done every year, right? You may not get all 100% of that, but you certainly have a start on whatever there is to get.
Exactly.
Is that a number you've heard, as well as in terms of kind of total addressable market?
Yes, so I think the way we see from a platform standpoint and from the kind of use cases, so Gatik essentially, like when we think about our use case, we are in the business of middle mile short haul logistics. What this means is point-to-point deliveries or multi-stop deliveries where the networks are pre-known or can be pre-optimized. So there's a huge addressable market with that kind of value proposition. And what we have seen from a number standpoint or a target addressable market standpoint, it's about $250 billion market in North America. So it's a niche. It's a small market, but it's a significant niche.
Well, and I suspect that among the things that you're doing, I know we've talked with I think it's Tyson was a customer that was I spoke with them when they signed on to get a few trucks and work with you. I think in Arkansas. Is that right? And we talked about routes. They thought they had identified maybe 40 others. I think that's the number they gave me. And of course, one of the things about what you're doing is the repeatability of it. You're covering the same ground. You don't have to sort of map new areas or figure that out if you're just going to go and load up or unload and turn around and come back. And this seems to be, kind of the ideal use case, really. I mean, your technology, once you have it, you have it. And I guess things change and you need to be able to update. And we should talk as chief engineer, we should talk with you about sort of, without getting too far into the weeds, what is it that, you are working on now to make sure that, these routes and future routes and so forth are, reliable and I don't think durable is the right word. That's what you call a truck.
Absolutely. That's a fair question. So I'll premise that by saying that as a roboticist or a technologist, like what I have seen or what generally like works out is if there is a use case or if there is a task that's repeatable, that happens more often at high frequency, but it's repeatable, that's very much prime for automation. So this is what we have seen in all the industry. Like if you have something that you can define very well, it's repeatable and you can essentially build your system around that, it's going to be really prime for automating those. You have good understanding of that. So with that, in terms of the use case that we have essentially like been working on for years now, the idea that is that we essentially run our vehicles on known routes. So these are not fixed, but known routes. What that means is we know exactly where the vehicle starts and where the vehicle ends. So we know the points, the nodes between the network. This allows us to, there are several different areas where we can use the advantage of this within the technology. So as you called out, like mapping is one big problem when you essentially expand into a lot of geographies. But with the known routes, known networks, there's a lot of optimization that we can do, prior information that we can derive out of those networks and have very lean maintainable maps. But it goes beyond that. Like in terms of the actual technology that the software, the core software that we use, we are able to build a really reliable, robust, and safe technology there using that inherent advantage of the use case. We essentially use a hybrid approach within our stack. What that means is we have AI-first algorithms, AI-first technology that is complemented by safety redundancies that are guaranteed by classical robotics approach. These are heuristics-based or classical methods, formal methods that allows us to actually have certain guarantees built into the architecture, built into the software that enables us to truly prove the safety case of the technology, prove the safety case of the implementation.
Does your technology at this point, does one truck tell another truck when it finds something? If it sees something unusual, does it communicate that to another autonomous Gatik vehicle? And we're hearing more and more of that. I think it's been talked about a lot, but
It,
this idea of, shared information and so forth.
yeah, so that's a very interesting use case for us, given that we have high volumes of vehicles on the routes that we run, on networks that we run. So there is a lot of densification that we see on specific networks that essentially interconnect a lot of our customers. So one thing that's emerging, that's essentially like it's at the backbone of our use cases. We have a lot of customers that we are working with have in the same geography areas using the same kind of networks or routes that we are working with. So having that kind of densification or high volume on very specific routes or very specific networks, you have a lot of different vehicles, a lot of Gatik vehicles running the same kind of networks, but for different customers, right? So that is these kinds of like optimizations and informations that we can actually benefit from. So we do have information tracing or information communication back to our base that allows us to provide a much better supervision, assistance, or dispatch services for these vehicles.
So if truck number 6 does something, truck number 8's going to know it very quickly, especially if they're on the same route and that sort of thing. I want to ask about something else. We've seen this at sort of the class 3 level with, I want to say it's BrightDrop. They were for a while. I don't know if they're still doing it. They were looking at sort of the loading and unloading, using robotics. So you've got background in this area. Is that something you see for the future? Because right now we still have humans at either end loading and unloading the trucks, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So I think long term or in the future, the value of having loading and unloading automated is huge. So there is a I would say exploration and innovation that can happen on that front. But Gatik, like the use case that we are after, we are not waiting for that to enable the actual value of the overall proposal. So the business to business short haul or the kind of like use cases that we work with enables us to work very collaboratively, very closely with our customers to create these new roles, modified roles at the stores, at the warehouses, or the distribution centers, where the existing staff, existing store associates, or even there are newer modified roles that we are seeing, which kind of is the model of crowdsourced enablers or loading and unloading merchandisers that are available at different distribution centers or stores that do that final few meters of loading and unloading at the stores and distribution centers.
So then in warehouses, of course, Amazon comes to mind right away, but we know in warehouses you've got, everything from picking to moving to conveyors and things like that. So I guess I'm wondering, as you pull into, let's call it Kroger. Kroger's a good example, right? I mean, you're pretty with Kroger. Are you now autonomous with Kroger? Have you pulled drivers on those routes?
We haven't yet pulled drivers out on those routes. We go through those phases of deployment, and we are in the phases of the initial phases of in terms of like validating our technology on those routes.
Mm-hmm. If I was going to go to Kroger, and of course we miss it here in West Michigan, we don't have Kroger, but we love Kroger. And but I know in Dallas it is ubiquitous as it is in many cities. But I wonder. I mean, I think about pulling into the dock and whether you have a side dock for the autonomous truck or whatever. It feels like it's not a big leap to get to the idea of something that would load. It would speed up everything, right? I mean, speed up the unloading and the loading. I don't want to be attacked for destroying jobs here as we talk about this, but there are efficiencies, I think you said, that can be gained.
Yes, absolutely. So just to take a step back in terms of like bringing this technology to the market, right? There is a huge amount of like different ways you can integrate or interface with the customer. So one of the things, like the example that you brought up, which is Kroger, we have been deployed with them, have gone through several like initial like phases of training, development, validations. We are in the final stretch of validations on their routes, which will essentially like will soon we'll see drivers coming out of some of these routes. So there are different phases that we go through with these customers, and the final phase is where these operational pieces of interfacing with the customer comes into picture. We have there are a lot of auxiliary like technologies that we also work with in terms of integrating the information that's on these trucks very much like integrated with the warehouse management systems or transport management systems, TMS, WMS of our customers. So this is real-time information sharing that happens between our trucks and our customers' internal device. So we have real-time updates around where the trucks are, the state of the trucks, around loading, unloading, and all these like kinds of interfacing and integrations that we go through with the customers as we are going through these phases.
So it's not a leap to what we're talking about then to get to either, almost maybe not full autonomy, but certainly, a version of autonomy that gets those trucks loaded, unloaded, and moving back onto their routes.
Exactly. So it is steps, but it is not a huge jump in terms of automating those pieces.
Right, right. This is not entirely something, but you are a co-founder, and of course, you're a legitimate C-suite executive here. You raised, I think it was just a couple of years ago, about can't remember how big the raise was. It was pretty good though. Do you see sort of, public entry, or is that sort of in the pathway at any time soon, or is it just something where things are going good and leave it be?
Yeah. So, Alan, like in terms of overall trajectory of where the company is headed, it's coming. So I would say I would leave it to that. But what we believe very strongly is creating a really good business model here, having a good path to profitability is what we are very much focused on. Every step that we have taken since the start of the company is building a really profitable revenue generating business that's sustainable on its own. We have the right pieces in place now. We have the right customers, have the right influence on the market, as well as really good partners that we have been engaged with on long-term relationship. And we are seeing them essentially go deeper, which is a little bit, I would say, anomaly and in contrast to some of the other relationships in the industry. So we believe that we have the right pieces in place towards
We've got about a minute left. Let's get you out of here on this one. We touched on it, but we really didn't discuss it. And that is the moving away from the gasoline, diesel, internal combustion engines and moving into electrified powertrains, whether that's fuel cell or whether I don't think fuel cell is necessarily the right use case here, but certainly electrification is. Can you sort of give us a quick thought on how that's moving along?
Yes, I think for the middle mile use case specifically, it's the perfect match. Like electrification is something that we are very much excited about and are working towards with some of our partners. With our customers as well, what we are seeing is that there's a strong drive towards sustainability goals, and we see that's coming across the market. So it is on our roadmap. We are working very, very deeply with some of our OEM partners as well as tier one partners, such as Cummins. On some of these roadmap items, and we'll be having those. So from a middle mile use case, the electrification is very much suited for this particular use case. Like the kind of technology that we have on these electric vehicles is very much aligned with the kind of distances that we run, which is like a few miles to 300 miles, up to 300 miles of delivery. So, and the kind of infrastructure that comes with it is also something that we can enable on either side of the businesses in terms of like the shortfall. So we went through something similar with Walmart in the early days, where we had vehicles running, electric vehicles running these deliveries multiple times a day, several days a week, in which we had the infrastructure on both sides. So as loading and unloading happens, the vehicles are getting charged.
Yeah.
So really good utilization factor on this.
Sure. Well, Apeksha, we could spend more time. Unfortunately, we don't have it. But I would love to get together again and do this down the road and talk about, sort of the next stages. But I think this is a great opportunity for the audience to catch up a little bit on your work. Thank you so much for being here and being a guest with us on Shark Tech.
Thank you so much, Alan. It was a pleasure chatting with you.